Welcome back, Underdogs, Misfits, and other little lunatics. So, before we get into the next three short stories of Brothers Grimm, I'm super excited to announce that Charlie the Spider has finally shown up. I ordered Charlie a couple months ago because I love spiders, and allow me to explain to you why. The symbolism behind spiders. I wrote it down because it's interesting. And then we're going to get into our three short stories. Well, get used to Charlie. I call him Charlie because when I was a little girl, I used to love Charlotte's Web. And Charlie is short for Charlotte. So we got Charlie because I decided it was a male spider, I guess. Anyway, spider symbolism. Spiders are the center of creation, fate, patience, and interconnection, reflecting their web weaving ability, seen as artistry and destroys threads. Cultures view them as creators, tricksters, or guides to manifestation and balance. Connecting past, present, and future. Meaning varies from good luck Chinese happiness spiders to potential danger with venom, but generally emphasize creativity, destiny, and life's complex patterns. Keys: creation and manifestation, weaving intricate worlds symbolizing to bring dreams into reality and personal artistry. Fate and destiny, weaving life's threads connecting past and future and associated with goddesses like Neith. Patience and persistence, waiting in their webs, reflecting quiet focus and discipline. Interconnection, the web represents the universe, linking all things such as the World Wide Web. Little tear coming down, I don't know why. Balance, balancing spiritual, physical, past and future, self and others. Trickster's shadow. Iktomi in Lakota lore is a trickster figure, can represent the darker aspects of the psyche in Jungian thought. Good luck. In China, descending spirit spiders are happiness spiders, signifying good fortune. Cultural examples. Greek mythology, Arachne, a weaver turned into a spider of Athena for hubris. Native American, grandmother spider Iktomi, a creator, trickster, and weaver of life. Inspiration for dream catchers. Ancient Egypt, goddess Neith, the spinner and the weaver of the world. Buddhism symbolizes attachment, suffering, or the spirit weaving reality. The spiritual meaning when a spider appears. 1. A sign to weave your own destiny or take charge. 2. A reminder to focus on your creative goals. 3. A symbol of interconnectedness or a message from the universe. So, that's what Charlie stands for. Charlie the Spider. So, get used to Charlie. He's part of the storytelling, this whole storytelling experience. Charlie. All right. And on that note, let's get into our Three Brothers Grimms. So the first story is called The Story of the Youth Who Went Forth to Learn What Fear Was. A certain father had two sons, the eldest of whom was smart and sensible, and could do everything, but the younger one was stupid and could neither learn nor understand anything. And when people saw him, they'd say, "There's a fellow who will give his father some trouble." When anything had to be done, it was always the elder who was forced to do it. But if his father bade him fetch anything, when it was late or in the night time, and the way led through the churchyard or any other dismal place, he answered, "Oh no, Father, I'll not go there. It makes me shudder." For he was afraid. Or when stories were told by the fire at night, which made the flesh creep, the listeners sometimes said, "Oh, it makes us shudder." The younger sat in a corner and listened to the rest of them and could not imagine what they could mean. They are always saying, "It makes me shudder. It makes me shudder." It does not make me shudder, he thought. That too must be an art of which I understand nothing. Now it came to pass that his father said to him one day, "Hearken. To me, you fellow in the corner there. You are growing tall and strong, and you too must learn something by which you can earn your bread. Look how your brother works, but you do not even earn your salt." "Well, father," he replied, "I am quite willing to learn something, indeed. If it could be managed, I shall like to learn how to shudder. I don't understand that at all yet." The elder brother smiled when he heard that, and thought to himself, "Goodness, what a blockhead that brother of mine is. He will never be good for anything as long as he lives. He who wants to be a sickle must bend himself betimes." The father sighed and answered him, You shall soon learn what it is to shudder, but you will not earn your bread by that." Soon after this the sexton came to the house on a visit, and the father bewailed his trouble and told him how his younger son was so backward in every respect that he knew nothing and learnt nothing. "Just think," said he, "when I asked him how he was going to earn his bread, he actually wanted to learn to shudder." "If that be all," replied the sexton, "he can learn that with me. Send him to me, and I will soon polish him." The father was glad to do it, for he thought, "It will train the boy a little." The sexton therefore took him into his house, and he had to ring the church bell. After a day or two, the sexton awoke him at midnight and bade him arise and go up into the church tower and ring the bell. "You shall soon learn what shuddering is," thought he, and secretly went there before him. And when the boy was at the top of the tower and turned round, he was just going to take hold of the bell rope, he saw a white figure standing on the stairs opposite the sounding hole. "Who is there?" cried he, but the figure made no reply and did not move or stir. "Give an answer," cried the boy, "or take yourself off. You have no business here at night." The sexton, however, remained standing motionless, that the boy might think he was a ghost. The boy cried a second time, "What do you want here? Speak if you are an honest fellow, or I will throw you down the steps." The sexton thought, "He can't mean to be as bad as his words," uttered no sound, and stood as if he were made of stone. Then the boy called to him for the third time, and as he was also to no purpose, he ran against him and pushed the ghost down the stairs, so that it fell down 10 steps and remained lying there in a corner. Thereupon he rang the bell, went home, and without saying a word went to bed, and fell asleep. The sexton's wife waited a long time for her husband, but he did not come back. At length she became uneasy, and wakened the boy, and asked, "Do you not know where my husband is? He climbed up the tower before you did." No, I don't know, replied the boy. But someone was standing by the sounding hole on the other side of the steps, and as he would neither give an answer nor go away, I took him for a scoundrel and threw him down the stairs. Just go there and you will see if it was he. I should be sorry if it were. The woman ran away and found her husband, who was lying moaning in the corner and had broken his leg. I need some water. She carried him down, and then with loud screams she hastened to the boy's father. Your boy, she cried, has been the cause of a great misfortune. He has thrown my husband down the steps so that he broke his leg. Take the good-for-nothing fella out of your house. The father was terrified and ran thither and scolded the boy. What wicked tricks are these, said he. The devil must have put them into your head. Father, he replied, do listen to me. I am quite innocent. He was standing there by night like one intent on evil doing. I did not know who it was, and I entreated him 3 times either to speak or to go away. Ah, said the father, I have nothing but unhappiness with you. Go out of my sight. I will see you no more. Yes, father, right willing. Wait only until it is day. Then will I go forth and learn how to shudder, and then I shall at any rate understand one art which will support me. Here are $50 for you. Take these and go into the wide world, and tell no one from whence you come, and who is your father, for I have no reason to be ashamed of you. For I have reason to be ashamed of you. Yes, father, it shall be as you will. If you desire nothing more than that, I can easily keep it in mind. When day dawned, therefore, the boy put his $50 into his pocket and went forth on the great highway and continually said to himself, if I could but shudder. If I could but shudder. Then a man approached who heard this conversation, which the youth was holding with himself, and when they had walked a little farther to where they could see the gallows, the man said to him, look, there is the tree where 7 men have married the rope maker's daughter and are now learning how to fly. Sit down beneath it and wait till night comes, and you will soon learn how to shudder. If that is all that is wanted, answered the youth, it is easily done. But if I learn how to shudder as fast as that, you shall have my $50. Just come back to me early in the morning. Then the youth went to the gallows, sat down beneath it, and waited till evening came. And as he was cold, he lighted himself a fire. But at midnight the wind blew so sharply that in spite of the fire he could not get warm. And as the wind knocked the hanging man against each other, and they moved backwards and forwards, he thought to himself, if you shiver below the fire, how those up above must freeze and suffer. And he felt pity for them. He raised the ladder and climbed up, unbound one of them after the other, and brought down all 7. Then he stoked the fire, blew it, and set them all around it to warm themselves. But they sat there and did not stir. The fire caught their clothes. So he said, take care, or I will hang you up again. The dead man, however, did not hear, but were quite silent, and let their rags go on burning. At this he grew angry and said, "If you will not take care, I cannot help you. I will not be burnt with you." And he hung them up again, each in his turn. Then he sat down by his fire and fell asleep. And the next morning the man came to him and wanted to have the $50 and said, "Well, do you know how to shudder?" "No," answered he. "How should I know? Those fellows up there did not open their mouths, and were so stupid that they let the few old rags which they had on their bodies get burned." Then the man saw that he would not get the $50 that day, and went away saying, "Such a youth has never came my way before." No shit. Ignorance is bliss. The youth likewise went his way, and once more began to mutter to himself, "Ah, if I could but shudder! Ah, if I could but shudder!" A wagoner who was striding behind him heard this and asked, "Who are you?" "I don't know," answered the youth. Then the wagoner asked, "From whence do you come?" "I know not." "Who is your father?" "That I may not tell you." "What is it that you are always muttering between your teeth?" "Ah," replied the youth, "I do so wish I could shudder, but no one can teach me how." "Enough of your foolish chatter," said the wagoner. "Come, go with me. I will see about a place for you." The youth went with the wagoner, and in the evening they arrived at an inn where they wished to pass the night. Then at the entrance of the parlor, the youth again said quite loudly, "If I could but shudder! If I could but shudder!" The host, who heard this, laughed and said, "If that is your desire, there ought to be a good opportunity for you here." "Ah, be silent," said the hostess. "So many prying persons have already lost their lives. It would be a pity and a shame if such beautiful eyes, all these, should never see the daylight again." But the youth said, "However difficult it may be, I will learn it. For this purpose indeed I have journeyed forth." He let the host have no rest until the latter told him that not far from thence stood a haunted castle where anyone could very easily learn what shuddering was, if he would but watch in it for 3 nights. The king had promised that he who would venture should have his daughter to wife, and she was the most beautiful maiden the sun shone on. Likewise, in the castle lay great treasures, which were guarded by evil spirits, and these treasures would then be freed, and would make a poor man rich enough. Already many men had gone into the castle, but as yet none had come out again. Then the youth went next morning to the king and said, "If it be allowed, I will willingly watch 3 nights in the haunted castle." The king looked at him, and as the youth pleased, he said, "You may ask for 3 things to take into the castle with you, but they must be things without life." Then he answered, "Then I asked for a fire, a turning lathe, and a cutting board with the knife." Interesting. Water break. Make sure that doesn't come undone. The king had these things carried into the castle for him during the day. When the night was drawing near, the youth went up and made himself a bright fire in one of the rooms, placed the cutting board and knife beside it, and seated himself by the turning lathe. Ah, if I could but shudder, said he, but I shall not learn it here either. Towards midnight he was about to poke his fire, and as he was blowing it, something cried suddenly from one corner. Ah, meow, how cold we are, you fools, cried he. What are you crying about? If you are cold, come and take a seat by the fire and warm yourselves. And when he had said that, two great black cats came with one tremendous leap and sat down on each side of him and looked savagely at him with their fiery eyes. After a short time, when they had warmed themselves, they said, "Comrade, shall we have a game of cards?" "Why not?" he replied. "But just show me your paws." Then they stretched out their claws. "Oh," said he, "what long nails you have. Wait, I must first cut them for you." Thereupon he seized them by the throats, put them on the cutting board, and screwed their feet fast. "I have looked at your fingers," said he, "and my fancy for card playing has gone." And he struck them dead and threw them into the water. But when he had made away with these two, and was about to sit down again by the fire, out from every hole and corner came black cats and black dogs with red hot chains, and more of them came until he could no longer move, and they yelled horribly and got on his fire, pulled it to pieces, and tried to put it out. He watched them for a while quietly, but at last, when they were going too far, he seized his cutting knife and cried, "Away with you, vermin!" and began to cut them down. Some of them ran, the others he killed and threw out into the fish pond. When he came back, he found the embers of his fire again and warmed himself. And as he thus sat, his eyes would keep open no longer, and he felt a desire to sleep. Then he looked around and saw a great bed in the corner. That is the very thing for me," said he. He got into it. When he was just going to shut his eyes, however, the bed began to move out of its own accord and went over the whole castle. "That's right," said he, "but go faster." Then the bed rolled on as if 6 horses were harnessed to it, up and down over thresholds and stairs. But suddenly, hop, hop, it turned over upside down and laid on him like a mountain. But he threw quilts and pillows up in the air, got out, and said, "Now anyone who likes may drive," and lay down by his fire, and slept till it was day. In the morning the king came, and when he saw him lying there on the ground, he thought the evil spirits had killed him, and he was dead. Then said he, "After all of it is a pity for so handsome a man." The youth heard it, got up, and said, "It has not come to that yet." Then the king was very astonished, but very glad, and asked how he had fared. "Very well indeed," answered he. "One night and past, the 2 others will pass likewise." Then he went to the innkeeper, who opened his eyes very wide and said, "I never expected to see you alive again. Have you learnt how to shudder yet?" "No," said he. "It is all in vain. If someone would but tell me." The second night he again went up into the old castle, sat down by the fire, and once more began his old song. "If I could but shudder." When midnight came, an uproar and noise of tumbling about was heard. At first it was low, but it grew louder and louder. Then it was quiet for a while, and at length, with a loud scream, half a man came down the chimney and fell before him. "Hullo!" cried he, "another half belongs to this. This is not enough." Then the uproar began again. There was a roaring and howling, and the other half fell down likewise. "Wait," said he, "I will just stoke up the fire a little for you." When he had done that and looked around again, the two pieces were joined together, and a hideous man was sitting in his place. That is no part of our bargain," said the youth. "The bench is mine." The man wanted to push him away. The youth, however, would not allow that, but thrust him off with all his strength, and seated himself again in his own place. Then still more men fell down, one after the other. They brought 9 dead men's legs and 2 skulls, and set them up, and played at 9 pins with them. The youth also wanted to play, and said, "Listen, you. Can I join you?" "Yes, if you have any money." "Money enough," replied he, "but your balls are not quite round." Then he took the skulls and put them in the lathe and turned them till they were round. "There, now they will roll better," said he. "Hooray! Now we'll have fun." He played with them and lost some of his money, but when it struck 12, everything vanished from his sight. He laid down and quietly fell asleep. Next morning the king came to inquire after him. "How has it fared with you this time?" asked he. "I've been playing at 9 pins," he answered, "and have lost a couple of farthings." "Have you not shuttered them?" "What?" said he. "I have had a wonderful time, if I did not know what it was to shudder." The third night he sat down again on his bench and said quite sadly, "If I could but shudder." When it grew late, 6 tall men came in and brought a coffin. Then said he, "Ha ha, that is certainly my little cousin, who died only a few days ago." And he beckoned with his finger and cried, "Come, little cousin, come." Then placed the coffin on the ground. But he went to it and took the lid off, and a dead man lay therein. He felt his face, but it was cold as ice. "Wait," said he, "I will warm you a little," and went to the fire and warmed his hand and laid it on the dead man's face. But he remained cold. Then he took him out and sat down by the fire and laid him on his breast and rubbed his arms that the blood might circulate again. As this also did no good, he thought to himself, "When 2 people lie in bed together, they warm each other." Oh no! And carried him to the bed, covered him over, and laid down by him. After a short time the dead man became warm too, and began to move. Then said to the youth, "See, little cousin, have I not warned you?" The dead man, however, got up and cried, "Now will I strangle you." "Wait, what?" said he. "Is that the way you thank me? You shall at once go into your coffin again." And he took him up and threw him in it and shut the lid. Then came the 6th man and carried him away. Again, I cannot manage to shudder, said he. I shall never learn it here as long as I live. Then a man entered who was taller than all others and looked terrible. He was old, however, and had a long white beard. You wretch, cried he, you shall soon learn what it is to shudder, for you shall die. Not so fast, replied the youth. If I am to die, I shall have a say in it. I will soon seize you, said the fiend. Softly, softly, do not talk so big. I am as strong as you are, and perhaps even stronger. We shall see, said the old man. If you are stronger, I will let you go. Come, we will try. Then he led him by dark passages to a smith's forge, took an axe, and with one blow struck an anvil into the ground. I can do better than that, said the youth, and went to the other anvil. The old man placed himself near and wanted to look on, and his white beard hung down. Then the youth seized the axe, spit the anvil with one blow, and in it caught the old man's beard. Now I have you, said the youth. Now it is your turn to die. Then he seized an iron bar and beat the old man till he moaned and entreated him to stop, when he would give him great riches. The youth drew out the axe and let him go. The old man led him back into the castle, and in a cellar showed him 3 chests full of gold. Of course, said he, one part is for the poor, the other part for the king, and the third is yours. In the meantime it struck 12, and the spirit disappeared, so that the youth stood in darkness. I shall still be able to find my way out, said he, and felt about, found the way into the room, and slept there by the fire. Next morning the king came and said, now you must have learnt what shuddering is. No, he answered, what can it be? My dead cousin was here, and a bearded man came and showed me a great deal of money down below, but no one told me what it is to shudder. Then, said the king, you have saved the castle, and you shall marry my daughter. That is all very well, said he, but still I do not know what it is to shudder. Then the gold was brought up and the wedding celebrated. But howsoever much the young king loved his wife, and however happy he was, he still said always, if I could but shudder, if I could but shudder. And this at last angered her. Her waiting maid said, I will find a cure for him. He shall soon learn what it is to shudder. She went out to the stream which flowed through the garden and had a whole bucket full of gudgeons brought to her. At night, when the young king was sleeping, his wife was to draw the clothes off him and empty the bucket full of cold water with the gudgeons in it over him, so that the little fishes would sprawl about him. Then he woke up and cried, oh, what makes me shudder so? What makes me shudder so, dear wife? Ah, now I know what it is to shudder. Okay, the next story. The Wolf and the 7 Little Kids. The Wolf and the 7 Little Kids. Let's have some water. I like Charlie. Charlie. The Wolf and the 7 Little Kids. There was once upon a time an old goat who who had 7 little kids and loved them with all the love of a mother for her children. One day she wanted to go into the forest and fetch some food. So she called all 7 to her and said, "Dear children, I have to go into the forest. Be on your guard against the wolf. If he comes in, he will devour you all, skin, hair, and everything." The wretch often disguises himself, but you will know him at once by his rough voice and his black feet. The kids said, "Dear mother, we will take good care of ourselves. You may go away without any anxiety." Then the old one bleated and went on her way with an easy mind. It was not long before someone knocked at the house door and called, "Open the door, dear children. Your mother is here and has brought something back with her for each of you." But the little kids knew that it was the wolf by the rough voice. "We will not open the door," cried they. "You are not our mother. She has a soft, pleasant voice, but your voice is rough. You are the wolf." Then the wolf went away to a shoekeeper and bought himself a great lump of chalk, ate this and made his voice soft with it. Then he came back, knocked at the door of the house, and called, "Open the door, dear children. Your mother is here and has brought something back with her for each of you." But the wolf had laid his black paws against the window, and the children saw them and cried, "We will not open the door. Our mother has not black feet like you. You are the wolf." Then the wolf ran to a baker and said, "I have hurt my feet. Rub some dough over them for me." And when the baker had rubbed his feet over, he ran to the miller and said, "Screw some white meal over my feet for me." The miller thought to himself, "The wolf wants to deceive someone," and refused. But the wolf said, "If you do not do it, I will devour you." Then the miller was afraid and made his paws white for him. Truly, this is the way of mankind. Right? So now the wretch went for the 3rd time to the house door, knocked at it and said, "Open the door for me, children. Your dear little mother has come home and has brought every one of you something back from the forest with her." The little kids cried, "First show us your paws, that we may know if you are our dear little mother." Then he put his paws in through the window, and when the kids saw that they were white, they believed that all he said was true, and opened the door. But who should come in but the wolf? They were terrified and wanted to hide themselves. One sprang under the table, the second into the bed, the third into the stove, the fourth into the kitchen, the fifth into the cupboard, the sixth under the washing bowl, and the seventh in the clock case. But the wolf found them all, and used no great ceremony. One after the other he swallowed them down his throat. The youngest, who was in the clock case, was the only one he did not find. When the wolf had satisfied his appetite, he took himself off, laid himself down under a tree in the green meadow outside, and began to sleep. Soon afterwards, the old goat came home again from the forest. Ah, what a sight she saw there! The house door stood wide open. The tables, chairs, and benches were thrown down. The washing bowl lay broken to pieces, and the quilts and pillows were pulled off the beds. She sought her children, but they were nowhere to be found. She called them one after another by name, but no one answered. At last, when she came to the youngest, a soft voice cried, "Dear mother, I am in the clock case." She took the kid out, and it told her that the wolf had come and had eaten all the others. Then you may imagine how she wept over her poor children. At length, in her grief, she went out, and the youngest kid ran with her. When they came to the meadow, there lay the wolf by the tree and snored so loud that the branches shook. She looked at him on every side and saw that something was moving and struggling in his gorged belly. Ah, heavens, she said, is it possible that my poor children, whom he has swallowed down for supper, can still be alive? Then the kid had to run home and fetch scissors and a needle and thread, and the goat cut open the monster's stomach, and hardly she made one cut, then one little kid thrust his head out, and when she had cut farther, all six sprung out one after another, and were all still alive, and had suffered no injury whatever, for in his greediness the monster had swallowed them down whole. What rejoice there was, I embraced, or they embraced their dear mother, and jumped like a tailor at his wedding. The mother, however, said, now go and look for some big stones, and we will fill the wicked beast's stomach with them while he is still asleep. Then the seven kids dragged the stones thither with all speed, and put as many of them into his stomach as they could get in. And the mother sewed him up again in the greatest haste, so that he was not. I've got to figure this out. I'll figure this out in the greatest haste. Hold on. Where were we? In the greatest haste, so that he was not aware of anything and never once stirred. When the wolf at length had had his fill of sleep, he got on his legs, and as the stones in his stomach made him very thirsty, he wanted to go to a well to drink. But when he began to walk and move about, the stones in his stomach knocked against each other and rattled. Then cried he, Then cried he, what rumbles and tumbles against my poor bones. I thought it 'twas six kids, but it feels like big stones. And when he got to the well and stooped over the water to drink, the heavy stones made him fall in, and he had to drown miserably. When the seven kids saw that, they came running to the spot and cried aloud, the wolf is dead! The wolf is dead! And danced for joy round about the well with their mother. Crazy stories. And this will be the third story, but I need some water and I need to make sure that this is not going to fall this camera. Mm-hmm. Here's to hoping. Here's to hoping. Let's try again. I'm going to have to figure this out. That's just a huge distraction when you're trying to read. My spider. I love my spider. Charlie's cool. Okay. But we're not talking about Charlie. We're talking about Faithful John. That's what this story is called. There was once upon a time an old king who was ill and thought to himself, I am lying on what must be my death bed. Then said he, tell Faithful John to come to me. Faithful John was his favorite servant and was so called because he had for his whole life long been so true to him. When therefore he came beside the bed, the king said to him, most faithful John, I feel my end approaching, and have no anxiety except about my son. He is still at tender age and cannot always know how to guide himself. If you do not promise me to teach him everything that he ought to know, and to be his foster father, I cannot close my eyes in peace. Then answered faithful John, I will not forsake him, and will serve him with fidelity, even if it should cost me my life. At this the old king said, now I die in comfort and peace. Then he added, after my death you shall show him the whole castle, all the chambers, halls, and vaults, and all the treasures which lie therein. But the last chamber in the long gallery, in which is the picture of the princess of the golden dwelling, shall you not show. If he sees that picture, he will fall violently in love with her, and will drop down in a swoon and go through great danger for her sake. Therefore you must protect him from that. And when Father John had once more given his promise to the old king about this, the king said no more, but laid his head on his pillow and died. Oh. When the old king had been carried to his grave, faithful John told the young king all that he had promised his father on his deathbed, and said, this will I assuredly keep, and will be faithful to you as I have been faithful to him, even if it should cost me my life. When the mourning was over, faithful John said to him, it is now time that you should see your inheritance. I will show you your father's palace. Then he took him about everywhere, up and down, and let him see all the riches and the magnificent apartments. Only there was one room which he did not open, that in which hung the dangerous pictures. The picture, however, was so placed that when the door was open you looked straight on it, and it was so admirably painted that it seemed to breathe and live, and there was nothing more charming or more beautiful in the whole world. The young king noticed, however, that faithful John always walked past this one door and said, why do you never open this one for me? There is something within it, he replied, which would terrify you. But the king answered, I have seen all the palace, and I want to know what is in that room also. And he went and tried to break open the door by force. Then faithful John held back and said, I promised your father before his death that you should not see that which is in this chamber. It might bring the greatest misfortune on you and on me. Ah, no, replied the young king. If I do not go in, it will be my certain destruction. I should have no rest day or night until I have seen it with my own eyes. I shall not leave the place now until you have unlocked the door. Then faithful John saw that there was no help for it now, and with a heavy heart and many sighs sought out the key from the great bunch. When he had opened the door, he went in first, and thought by standing before him he could hide the portrait so that the king should not see it in front of him. But what good was this? The king stood on tiptoe and saw it over his shoulder, and when he saw the portrait of the maiden, which was so magnificent and shone with gold and precious stones, he fell fainting to the ground. Faithful John took him up, carried him to his bed, and sorrowfully thought, "The misfortune has befallen us. Lord God, what will be the end of it?" Then he strengthened him with wine until he came to himself again. The first words the king said were, "Ah, the beautiful portrait. Who is it?" "That is the princess of the golden dwelling," answered faithful John. Then the king continued, "My love for her is so great that if all the leaves on all the trees were tongues, they cannot declare it. I will give you my life to win her. You are my most faithful John. You must help me." The faithful servant considered within himself for a long time how to set about the matter, for it was difficult even to obtain a sight of the king's daughter. At length he thought of a way, and said to the king, "Everything which she has about her is of gold: tables, chairs, dishes, glasses, bowls, and household furniture. Among your treasures are 5 tons of gold. Let one of the goldsmiths of the kingdom fashion these into all manners of vessels and utensils, excuse me, into all kinds of birds, wild beasts, and strange animals, such as may please her, and we'll go there with them and try our luck." Need some water. The king ordered all the goldsmith water to be brought to him, and they had to work night and day until at last the most splendid things were prepared. When everything was stowed on board a ship, faithful John put on the dress of a merchant, and the king was forced to do the same in order to make himself quite unrecognizable. Then they sailed across the sea and sailed on until they came to the town wherein dwelt the princess of the golden dwellings. Faithful John bade the king stay behind on the ship and wait for him. "Perhaps I shall bring the princess with me," said he. "Therefore see that everything is in order. Have the golden vessels—" What the heck? What? You got a tear flying down. "Set out and the whole ship decorated." Then he gathered together his apron, all kinds of golden things, went on shore, and walked straight to the royal palace. When he entered the courtyard of the palace, a beautiful girl was standing there by the well with 2 golden buckets in her hand, drawing water with them. And when she was just turning round to carry away the sparkling water, she saw the stranger and asked who he was. So he answered, "I am a merchant," and opened his apron and let her look in. Then she cried, "Oh, what beautiful golden things!" and put her pails down and looked at the golden wares one after the other. Then said the girl, "The princess must see these. She has such great pleasure in golden things that she will buy all you have." She took him by the hand and led him upstairs, for she was the waiting maid. When the king's daughter saw the wares, she was quite delighted and said, "They are so beautifully worked that I may buy them all from you." But faithful John said, "I am only the servant of a rich merchant. The things I have here are not to be compared with those my master has in his ship. They are the most beautiful and valuable things that had ever been made in gold." When she wanted to have everything brought up to her, he said, "There are so many of them that it would take a great many days to do that, and so many rooms would be required to exhibit them that your house is not big enough. Then her curiosity and longing were still more excited, until at last she said, "Conduct me to the ship. I will go there myself and behold the treasures of your master." As the faithful John was quite delighted, and led her to the ship, and when the king saw her, he perceived that her beauty was even greater than the picture had represented it to be, and thought no other than that his heart would burst in twain. Then she boarded the ship, and the king led her within. Faithful John, however, remained with the helmsman and ordered the ship to be pushed off, saying, Set all sail, till it fly like a bird in the air." Within, the king showed her the golden vessel, every one of them, also the wild beings and strange animals. Many hours went by while she was seeing everything, and in her delight she did not observe that ship was sailing away. After she had looked at the one, she thanked the merchant and wanted to go home. But when she came to the other side of the ship, she saw it was on the high seas, far from land, and hurrying onwards with all set sail. "Ah!" cried she in her alarm, "I am betrayed. I am carried away and have fallen into the power of a merchant. I would rather die." The king, however, seized her hand and said, "I am not a merchant. I am a king, and of no meaner origin than you are. And if I have carried you away with subtlety, that has come to pass because of my exceeding great love for you. The first time that I looked on your portrait, I fell fainting to the ground. When the princess of the golden dwelling earned her love, heard this, she was comforted, and her heart was drawn to him, so that she willingly consented to be his wife. He had to kidnap her. That's funny. King kidnapped his wife. It so happened while they were sailing onwards over the deep sea that faithful John, who was sitting on the forepart of the vessel making music, saw 3 ravens in the air, which came flying towards them. At this he stopped playing and listened to what they were saying to each other, for that he well understood. One cried, "Oh, there he is, carrying home the princess of the golden dwelling." "Yes," replied the second. "But he has not got her yet," said the third. "But he has got her. She is sitting beside him in the ship." Then the first began again and cried, "What good will that do him? When they reach land, a chestnut horse will leap forward to meet him, and the prince will want to mount it. And if and the prince will want to mount it. But if he does that, it will run away with him and rise up into the air, and he will never see his maiden more," spoke the second. "But is there no escape?" "Oh, yes, if someone else mounts it swiftly and takes out the pistol which he will find in his holster and shoots the horse dead, the young king is saved. But who knows that? And whoever so does know it and tells it to him will be turned to stone from the toe to the knee. Then said the second, I know more than that. Even if the horse be killed, the young king will still not keep his bride. When they go into the castle together, a wrought bridal garment will be lying there in a dish, and looking as if it were woven of gold and silver. It is, however, nothing but sulphur and pitch, and if he put it on, it will burn him to the very bone and marrow. Said the third, there is no escape at all. Oh, yes, replied the second. If any one with gloves on seizes the garment and throws it into the fire and burns it, the young king will be saved. But what good will that do? Whatsoever knows it and tells it to him, half his body will become stone from the need of the heart. Then said the third, I know still more. Even if the bridal garment be burnt, the young king will still not have his bride. After the wedding, when the dancing begins and the young queen is dancing, she will suddenly turn pale and fall down as if dead. And if someone does not lift her up and draw 3 drops of blood from her right breast and spit them out again, she will die. But if anyone who knows that were to declare it, he will become stone from the crown of his head to the sole of his foot. When the ravens had spoken of this together, they flew onwards, and faithful John had well understood everything. But from that time forth he became quiet and sad, for if he concealed what he had heard from his master, the latter would be unfortunate, and if he disclosed it to him, he himself must sacrifice his life. At length, however, he said to himself, I will save my master, even if it brings destruction on myself. Where therefore they came to shore, all happened as had been foretold by the ravens, and a magnificent chestnut horse sprang forward. Good, said the king, he shall carry me to my palace, and was about to mount it when faithful John got before him, jumped quickly on it, drew the pistol out of the holster, and shot the horse. Then the other attendants of the king, who were not very fond of faithful John, cried, how shameful to kill the beautiful animal that was to have carried the king to his palace. But the king said, hold your peace and leave him alone. He is my most faithful John. Who knows what good may come of this? They went into the palace, and in the hall there stood a dish, and therein of gold and silver. The young king went towards it, and was about to take hold of it, but faithful John pushed him away, seized it with gloves on, carried it quickly to the fire, and burnt it. The other attendants again began to murmur, and said, behold now, he is even burning the king's bridal garment. But the young king said, who knows what good he may have done? Leave him alone. He is my most faithful John. Be nice to have someone trust you that much, eh? Well, I guess trust isn't given, it's earned, and faithful John earned the king's trust. Anyway, and now the wedding was solemnized. The dance began, and the bride also took part in it. When faithful John was watchful and looked into her face, and suddenly she turned pale and fell to the ground as if she were dead. On this he ran hastily to her, lifted her up, and bore her into a chamber. Then he laid her down and knelt and sucked the 3 drops of blood from her right breast and spat them out. What the fuck? Immediately she breathed again and recovered herself. But the young king had seen this, and being ignorant why faithful John had done it, was angry and cried, throw him into a dungeon. Next morning, faithful John was condemned and led to the gallows. And when he stood on high and was about to be executed, he said, "Everyone who has to die is permitted before his end to make one last speech. May I too claim the right?" "Yes," answered the king. "It shall be granted unto you." Then said faithful John, "I am unjustly condemned, and have always been true to you." And he related how he had hearkened to the conversation of the ravens when on sea, and how he had been obliged to do all these things in order to save his master. Then cried the king, "O my most faithful John, pardon, pardon, bring him down." But as faithful John spoke the last word, he had fallen down lifeless and became a stone. Right. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Anyway, thereupon the king and queen suffered great anguish, and the king said, "Ah, how ill I have requited great fidelity," and ordered the stone figure to be taken up and placed in his bedroom beside his bed. And as often as he looked at it, he wept and said, "Ah, if I could bring you to life again, my most faithful John." Some time passed, and the queen bore twins, two sons who grew fast and were her delight. Once, when the queen was at church, and the father was sitting with his two children playing beside him, he looked at the stone figure again, sighed, and full of grief he said, "Ah, if I could but bring you to life again, my most faithful John." Then the stone began to speak and said, "You can bring me to life again if you will use for that purpose what is dearest to you." Then the king cried, "I will give everything I have in the world for you." The stone continued, "If you will cut off the heads of your two children with your own hand and sprinkle me with their blood, I shall be restored to life." What the fuck? I did say they're adult fairy tales. That's twisted. Anyway, the king was terrified when he heard that he himself must kill his dearest children, but he thought of faithful John's great fidelity and how he had died for him, drew his sword, and with his own hand cut off the children's heads. And when he had smeared the stone with their blood, life returned to it, and faithful John stood once more safe and healthy before him. He said to the king, "Your truth shall not go unrewarded," and took the heads of the children, put them on again, and rubbed the wounds with their blood, at which they became whole again immediately, and jumped about, and went on playing as if nothing had happened. Then the king was full of joy, and when he saw the queen coming, he hid faithful John and the two children in a great cupboard. When she entered, he said to her, "Have you been praying in the church?" "Yes," answered she, "but I have constantly been thinking of faithful John and what misfortune had befallen him through us." Then said he, I know where this is going. "Dear wife, we can give him his life again, but it will cost us our two little sons, whom we must sacrifice." The queen turned pale and her heart was full of terror, but she said, "We owe it to him for his great fidelity." Then the king was rejoiced that she thought as he had thought, and went and opened the cupboard and brought forth faithful John and the children and said, "God be praised. He is delivered, and we have our little sons again also," and told her how everything had occurred. They dwelt together in much happiness until their death. That was a twisted story. What the fuck? But I know when I listen to it, like when I watch this video, I'll be like, wow, it's going to be a lot different. Reading it and just sitting listening to it, you get so many more downloads from listening. Anyways, I think we're pushing around 5. So, because I was like 45 minutes into the first draft of this video, and the cat wouldn't stop, the camera kept falling. I'm like, 3:30 a.m. That's when all the tweaking shit happens on the spiritual realm. Well, anyways, we survived it. So, underdogs, misfits, and other little lunatics. I hope you're enjoying these really odd and twisted Brothers Grimm stories. Totally twisted. These are from like I think 1830 something or 1870 something. But it's interesting. You gotta think of like, some of this comes from truth. It has to come from truth. Yes, the world was a twisted place 150 years ago. Not that it's not twisted now. I'm sure the future will be talking about how twisted the 2000s were. I mean, looking back, they are pretty fucked up. Anyway, underdogs, misfits, and other little lunatics. I hope you enjoyed storytelling. We're going to come back with the next 3 videos. I'm going to have a rest. The sun is about to rise. I must go to sleep till dark. But when we come back, we're going to start with The Good Bargain. Yeah. And get used to Charlie. I love Charlie, my spider. Charlie the spider. And for just to remind you guys, because I said in the beginning, I'm going to reread what Charlie means. Why? Because I want to. Because Charlie has become part of my storytelling, whatever this is. I like it. I'm having fun. Life's short. Tomorrow's not promised. So if I choose to be a storyteller today, then that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, there is a bazillion YouTube channels that you can go venture and learn a bunch of do-it-yourself stuff. But if you want to do some crazy storytelling, stay with me and Charlie. All right, let's talk a little bit about Charlie before we shut her down. Charlie. All right. Charlie symbolizes centers of creation, fate, patience, and interconnection, reflecting his web weaving ability, seen as artistry and destroys threads. Cultures view Charlie as a creator, a trickster, or a guide to manifestation and balance, connecting past, present, and future. Meanings vary from good luck, Chinese happiness Charlies, to potential dangerous, venomous Charlies, but generally emphasize creativity, destiny, and life's complex patterns. Keys: creation and manifestation. Charlie weaves intricate worlds symbolizing to bring dreams into reality and personal artistry. Fate and destiny. Charlie weaves life's threads connecting past and future and associated with goddesses like Neith. Patience and persistence. Charlie waits in his webs, reflecting quiet focus and discipline. Interconnection. Charlie's web represents the universe, linking all things such as the World Wide Web. Balance. Charlie balances spiritual, physical, past and future, and self and others. What a good Charlie, eh? I love Charlie. Trickster shadows. Iktomi in Lakota lore, a trickster figure can represent the darker aspects. So Charlie can represent the darker aspects of the psyche in Jungian thoughts, like Carl Jung, Jungian thoughts. Anyway, good luck. In China, Charlie can be a descending spider. He's a happiness spider, and he signifies good fortune. Cultural examples. In Greek mythology, Arachne is a weaver turned into a Charlie spider of Athena for Hebrus. Native Americans. Grandmother Charlie Spider, Iktomi, is a creator, a trickster, and a weaver of life, inspiration for dream catchers. Native Egypt. Goddess Neith. Charlie is the spinner and the weaver of the world. In Buddhism, Charlie symbolizes attachment, suffering, or the spiritual weaving reality. The spiritual meaning when Charlie appears. Charlie, when a spider appears. 1. A sign to weave your own destiny or take charge. 2. A reminder to focus on your creative goals. 3. A symbol of interconnectedness or a message from the universe. Charlie. So Charlie has joined Storytime Hour. He's now part of the whole creation. Why? Why not? Anyways, gotta go, my little underdogs, misfits and lunatics. I love ya. The sun's, daytime's gonna break. I'm gonna go have my tea and relax and hit the hay for a few hours. I love you. So, yeah. Anyway, I think everybody needs a little Charlie of their own. Go get yourself a spider, guys. Anyway, love you. Thanks for chiming in. Having a lot of fun doing this. These stories are getting bizarre, though. I've never read them. I've only had the book for like 30 years. Interesting. I'm going to watch these videos back and go, how bizarre, how bizarre. And I have a feeling these stories are even going to get more bizarre. Brothers Grimm. Okay, love ya. Bye.